It was a rainy Tuesday morning in a quiet suburb just outside of Denver. Claire Simmons stood by her kitchen window, watching the droplets of water race each other down the glass. Her coffee had gone cold in her hands, untouched. Her golden retriever, Max, laid curled by her feet, his eyes watching her silently, sensing the tension in the air. Claire was 38 years old, a freelance editor, a single mother to an 11-year-old daughter named Ella, and someone who had spent much of her adult life trying to make sense of people's words, except the ones that had hurt her. Years ago, when she was fresh out of college, Claire had fallen in love with a man named Darren. He was charming, confident, and made her feel like she could conquer the world, at least in the beginning. But what started as passion quickly turned into control. Darren had a way of twisting her words, making her question her reality. Every disagreement became her fault. Every quiet dinner was filled with invisible tension. It wasn't until Ella was 5 that Claire found the courage to leave. Even after the divorce, the scars remained. Darren had moved across the country and rarely called, but his voice still echoed in Claire's mind whenever she made a mistake or second-guessed a decision. "You're too sensitive," he would say. "No one will ever understand you the way I do." Those words had taken root in her self-worth, deeply and silently. But this story isn't about Darren. This story is about the day Claire decided no one could ever hurt her again. And it started with something small. Claire was on a video call with her best friend, Megan. They had met in a book club years ago and quickly bonded over their love of novels and sarcasm. "You're spiraling again," Megan said, sipping from her wine glass. "You're overthinking what that client said. He wasn't criticizing your work." Claire sighed. "I know. It's just every time someone doesn't like something I've done, it feels like I've failed completely." "You're not failing," Megan said, her voice softening. "You're just letting your past sneak back in. You need to do that thing we talked about." Claire raised an eyebrow. "The boundary exercise?" Megan nodded. "That one. Remember? You sit with yourself and remind yourself that your value isn't up for debate. Not by some man, not by a client, not even by a mistake." That night, after putting Ella to bed, Claire sat on her bedroom floor. She turned off all distractions, no music, no phone, and closed her eyes. She took a deep breath and whispered, "I am not who they say I am. I am not the version of me that only exists in their narrative. I am more than someone else's opinion." The first time she said it, it felt awkward, like she was reading lines from a script. But then she said it again, and again, until the words felt like hers. "I am not the girl Darren tried to define. I am not weak because I care. I am strong because I still feel." She didn't cry that night. She didn't need to. Something shifted in her. It was quiet, almost imperceptible, but it was real. The next day, Claire went to the local community center to sign up for a yoga and mindfulness class. She wasn't looking for a new lifestyle. She was simply looking for space to breathe differently. The instructor, an older woman named Joyce with silver hair and warm eyes, introduced the class with a simple phrase that Claire would remember for years. "You do not have to be calm to practice calm. You just have to show up." And that became Claire's new motto. She began showing up for herself in small ways. She set boundaries with her clients. No work emails after 6 p.m. She spent more quality time with Ella, reading together and going for long walks without her phone. When old insecurities surfaced, she acknowledged them like old friends who no longer held power. The real test came one afternoon when she ran into Darren's sister, Molly, at the grocery store. Claire hadn't seen her in years, and she braced herself for the usual backhanded compliment or probing question. But when Molly smiled and said, "You look different. Happier, maybe?" Claire surprised even herself. "I am," Claire said, steady and certain. And that was it. No defensiveness. No fear. Just truth. That weekend, Ella had a sleepover at a friend's house, and Claire decided to treat herself to a solo dinner at a cozy Italian restaurant. She brought a book, ordered her favorite pasta, and let herself enjoy the moment. No anxiety. No self-judgment. The waiter, a friendly man named Ryan, struck up a conversation. He was kind, but Claire wasn't interested in more than casual talk. Still, it felt good to be seen, not for what she could do or offer, but just as a person existing in peace. Over the following months, Claire kept a journal, not to document her pain, but to celebrate her victories. She wrote about the days she felt grounded, the moments she didn't let someone's words ruin her mood, the times she responded with calm when chaos tempted her. She even began teaching Ella simple breathing techniques. One night, when Ella was nervous about a school presentation, Claire held her hands and said, "Let's breathe like the ocean. In slow, out slow. You're okay. No one can make you feel small unless you hand them the power." It wasn't perfect. There were still tough days. But Claire was no longer seeking perfection. She was seeking presence. And in that presence, no one could touch her core. Then came an unexpected message. Darren had emailed her. It was short, surprisingly civil. He had recently gone through a breakup and was reflecting on his past. He apologized for how he treated her. Claire read the message 3 times. She didn't reply. Not because she was angry, but because she didn't need closure from him anymore. She had given that to herself. Instead, she opened her journal and wrote, "Today, the past tried to return. But I no longer live there. I'm not angry. I'm just free." Months later, Claire was invited to speak at a local women's empowerment event. She hesitated at first. Public speaking wasn't her thing, but something inside her nudged her forward. When she stood at the podium, looking out at the small crowd, she said, "I used to think strength meant not letting people in. Now I know real strength is letting yourself be whole, even when others want to tear you apart. I'm not unbreakable. I'm just not available for breaking anymore." The audience clapped softly, some women wiping away tears. Claire smiled. Back at home, Ella greeted her with a hug. "How did it go, Mom?" Claire knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "It went beautifully." Ella nodded. "You looked calm when you left." Claire laughed. "I felt calm. That's the trick." And perhaps that was the secret all along. Not to never feel hurt again, but to never let hurt take up permanent residence. Not to fight every storm, but to learn how to build shelter in your own soul. Because once you've learned to sit with yourself, to speak to your wounds with kindness, and to separate your identity from someone else's actions, no one can hurt you after that. And the calm? It doesn't come in fireworks or loud declarations. It comes quietly, like a sunrise, like a breath, like the moment you realize you're free and always were.